Hey there. Are you tired of waiting for the next episode of It's Probably Not Aliens? Well, we've got some good news for you. On Nebula, our streaming service, you can get access to all our episodes a week early. That's right, you'll never have to wait again to hear Scott and I debunk the latest ancient astronaut theory or get a movie fact wrong. But that's not all. Nebula is home to dozens of content creators we know you like, so you can find all your favorites in one place. Plus, we post content on there that you won't find anywhere else. And the best part? By signing up for Nebula at nebula.tv/probablyNotAliens, you're directly supporting the show and both of us. So don't wait any longer. Join Nebula today and listen to the next episode right after this one. So should we start with the meetup?
I think we should start with the meetup because some people have already, we've at least gotten an email from someone being like, did you know that Ancient Aliens Live is a thing? It's like, all right, we got to talk about it right at the start.
Yeah. We mentioned it once in an episode ages ago, and then we're like, then never brought it up ever again.
Yeah.
Mostly because between you getting married and me wrangling a almost 2-year-old, we're like, we'll get to this, don't worry. And then now we're getting to it at probably what I would say an almost embarrassingly late date. But we are getting to it.
All right, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in hard with this episode. Ready? Here we go. Everyone shut up. We're talking now. Listen to us. Tristan and I are doing a meetup, all right? We're doing a meetup. What date? November 4th. Put it in your calendar. Where at? Replay in Lincoln Park, which is in Chicago?
Yeah, Lincoln Park is a neighborhood in Chicago.
Perfect. I know that. Why are we doing this?
That is a good question. I ask myself this often.
Is it because we want to hang out with listeners of the show? Yes, but also Tristan and I live nowhere near Chicago. So why are we going to Chicago? Tristan, fill everyone in.
Some people have filled us in, and we mentioned this several episodes ago, but these episodes are long. I'm not going to expect everybody to listen to every episode that we do. But basically, Ancient Aliens is going on tour for some reason.
Yeah.
And they're doing a live show in all sorts of places. Much to my dismay, I found out way too late that one of the places that they are having one of these dates is in Chicago. So we made our lives intentionally more difficult than they needed to be.
Yep.
But we're going to a live show for Ancient Aliens in Kalamazoo, Michigan. That's not like a meetup thing. We're just going to go there and make content out of whatever the madness of this show ends up being.
Yeah, we're just going to watch the whatever happens there, and then the day after
we're gonna go hop on the Amtrak or Greyhound or one of those things and go over to the Big Bean, the Windy City, and we're going to have a little get together at 5 p.m. at the bar called Replay, just sort of like a place where it's an arcade with a bar.
A barcade, yeah.
So unfortunately, I learned this actually in the preamble to this because in Canada you can go to bars if you're under 19. You just can't drink. But apparently in America, that's not a thing. And I'm sorry for anybody of our Zoomer audience who are under 21, but they're not going to let you in because I guess that's just how America works.
Sorry.
But yeah, basically 5 p.m. Apparently, if you buy I went to the website and tried to get the details. You may have to buy a drink. You might have to buy a cover of some kind. There might be a ticket. I don't know. We'll have to, you go there, get in however it is that you can get in, and we'll be there hanging out, but there'll be games.
Yes. This is the most frantic, we're just we don't know how you get in there. Just get in there, okay? We'll be in there. And if you want to meet us, we'll be there.
Any means necessary, you can get in there.
Get in, get out. We're going to have drinks. We're going to have games. We're not going to do it. The bar already has the drinks, the games, but Tristan and I will be there November 4th, 5 p.m. Lincoln Park. Replay is the bar name. Hang out.
2833 North Sheffield Avenue.
That's it.
All right, that's all the things. All right, just because we rambled a lot. Meetup, November 4th, Chicago, Illinois, at Replay in Lincoln Park, 2833 North Sheffield Avenue at 5 p.m. Be there and be square.
Be both of those things. We planned this months ago, and we just mentioned it once, I think, and never again. And it's getting closer to the date. So, please, if you're in the area, come hang out. We'd love to say hi.
Yeah.
And just hang out. It'd be great.
Woo! It's Halloween.
Spooky.
It's the spooky day of October 12th.
October 12th for us. Yes.
We're time travelers from the past.
Whoa.
But yeah, this is the Halloween special.
We're doing a Halloween special. Spooky, scary. A Halloween special of what? What is this? This is a podcast. This is a podcast called It's Probably Not Aliens, where we debunk ancient astronaut theory and conspiracy theories. And we're doing some cryptozoology today. It's going to be a good, fun time. My name is Scott Nicewander. I know nothing except for how to get attention. Everyone shut up. That's all I know how to do. That's me.
It made your wedding very awkward sometimes.
Yeah.
Everybody, shut up. We're going to dance now.
Shut up. I'm getting married. That was the opening to my vows. Emily, shut up. I'm talking now. I'm kidding. I didn't do that.
No, there was a lot more cutesy stuff and tears and such. It was great. Either way, my name's Tristan Johnson. I have turned my ADHD info dumping into a career, and I've decided to inflict that upon all of you today. And also, I just want to mention before we get started too, that as I was talking about the topic of this episode with my wonderful wife, Kelly, she mentioned a very good joke that also I said I was going to steal, and then I had to credit her. So
okay.
When I mentioned that we were doing an episode on cryptozoology, she was like, "You mean the people who spent like $10,000 on a picture of an ape?" I was like,
That's pretty good.
But yeah, we're doing crypto apes today. No, we're doing crypto.
Wasn't there an actual like NFT project called like Cryptozoo or something like that?
I think so,
I'm
yeah.
almost positive. Yeah.
There probably was. That sounds stupid enough to be one of those Ponzi schemes that they did.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're doing cryptozoology today because it's Halloween, so we're getting away from the aliens. And, we were having fun a little bit. People asked us in the last week's episode that we were talking about, hey, when are you going to do other things? And I was like, Halloween.
Yeah, when are you going to do probs not ghosts? When are you going to do probs not supernatural stuff? We're doing it.
So this is one thing we can do to kind of dip our toes into that water, see how people like it, but also give you like an introduction to something a little different because we're kind of already on our best day, a Halloween adjacent episode.
Yeah.
And last year we decided instead of doing a Halloween episode to do a Day of the Dead episode where I talked about the Grim Reaper.
Yes.
So this one's a little bit more, this is another teenage hyper focus of mine turned into content as I grew out of it. So welcome. How about we start with the main thing here? And this is what I want to figure out.
Do it.
Scottward.
That's me.
When you think cryptozoology, what comes to mind for you?
Gosh, I wish it was something cooler, but it is Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. Honestly, when I mentioned that I was doing this too, I had Matt Mildred, Thought Slime, mention that as we are recording this, there is this very obviously a hoax, but people are talking about Bigfoot again because somebody released this video that is either somebody in a suit or some sort of very obvious hoax, but it's going around being look, I took a video of Bigfoot. It's so convincing. And then I looked at it. I'm like, this is
Bigfoot.
That is not a Bigfoot. That is a person in a suit.
Yeah, growing up, it was definitely Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster were the two big ones for me.
Well, yeah, those are the classics. I won't lie. But it's obviously a huge thing. Before I even did my research on this, I was like, oh yeah, it's just weird people who decided to spend their time doing monster hunting, who try to find monsters. And I realized I'm like, oh no, it goes so much deeper into all sorts of interesting places. And also in addition, I have the cryptozoology story in my family is that I have my great grandfather swears up and down that he saw Ogopogo. And then I realized that our primarily American audience has never heard of Ogopogo.
See, I know the name, but I don't know what the creature is.
In British Columbia, there's a place called the Okanagan Valley where there's a cryptid that is a sea snake that lives in this lake, in Lake Okanagan. And my great grandfather, who swears up and down, well, he doesn't swear that anymore. He's far too dead to do that. But he swore up and down that he had seen Ogopogo when he was there. So there's that connection. But everyone's got even some people would say the UFOs are cryptids, but really we're talking about the fascination that we have with finding real mythical creatures.
Yes.
So here's a little bit I can talk to you about it. So as long as there has been humans, millions of people around the world believe that we have been making creatures like centaurs and hybrids, and that maybe that these monsters from human history aren't creations of our imagination, aren't symbolic representations of various things, but actually they are, depending upon how intense you want to go, they are either real monsters, or they are like basically just descriptions of real species that we just have not discovered yet. And the most famous example people always give is that, like, there's, like, for a long time, gorillas were a cryptid. They were considered a legendary creature that we didn't believe in until we actually found them, and now we know of them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And also, this one's less of a case that this is like, you know, the whole term on TikTok, like what's something that isn't illegal but feels illegal? One of the ones that felt like a cryptid but never actually was a cryptid is Architeuthis, otherwise known as the giant squid.
Oh, absolutely. That's for sure. I remember, I think I was like very young when it was still sort of like, we've like finally found one washed up, but I don't even think at the time when I was younger that we ever saw one alive in the wild. I don't know. Have we ever found one living?
Yeah, that's the big trick with Architeuthis, is that it is like, it was never a species that was in doubt. We knew it existed because we kept finding dead ones. Like there's a dead one in the Smithsonian I saw when I was a child, and we've like found various like other signs, like, you know, like we found random tentacles, we found huge like sucker cup shaped scars on sperm whales because sperm whales hunt them.
Nice.
So like all that stuff existed, but the fact is that they are very big and they live in the deep ocean, like really, really deep in the ocean, because they're basically an example of something called abyssal gigantism. That's how you end up with things like the deep sea isopod, which is related to, like, you know, those little roly-polies. Imagine a roly-poly that's like a foot long, and those exist at the bottom as an just things get really big, really deep in the ocean. And Architeuthis, or the giant squid, is one of those. But yeah, we had never found like we never found one that was alive, or at least the ones we found that were alive did not live long enough to, like, you know, really stand up to scientific study until like recently. Like I think like the 2000, this is me just completely going off of the top of my head, but I'm trying to recall that sometime in the 2000s, like I think like 2007, there was a Japanese like underwater camera that captured one, and it was just like a few frames, because it wasn't like, it was one of those like webcams that didn't exist to like constantly take high definition footage. It just like takes pictures every few seconds.
2007. Webcams today are not particularly great. 2007, I don't know.
Yeah, but they took a few pictures of a Architeuthis like by the thing. Since then, though, I do think that there's been a few others as we've been more capable of sending our machines to the deep ocean and looking at stuff. There's been, and people have been looking for it because it's a very interesting species. It's like,
yeah, it is.
Until we discovered a different one. It was considered like the largest invertebrate on Earth, and it's like the second, and to this day it's like the second largest cephalopod. And and
a bigger one.
Well, yeah, there's the colossal squid. There's another species of squid called the colossal squid that lives in sort of the oceans around Antarctica. But the giant squid has like the largest eyes on Earth. They're like the size of volleyballs, or dinner plates.
It's pretty big.
And like, yeah, like pretty wild. But like, thing is, like that is considered like an example of a cryptid, but was never actually a cryptid. Like cryptozoology has no claim over the giant squid. It was an animal that we had never seen alive, but we had plenty of evidence that it was a real animal.
Right.
And still is to this day. But like, the thing is that we have always been fascinated by monsters, and we have been writing about giant squids for ages, possibly seeing these as part of like our fascination with monsters. You can even see this back in like ancient times, like medieval times. You saw these things called bestiaries, which were basically like little books full of different animals. Like, here are all the animals that exist. And some of them were real. Some of them were very funny because they were like drawings of like an elephant done by someone who had never seen an elephant before and it only had it described to them. There's some great paintings out there you should see, though, of like this person trying to draw an elephant, and it's like they obviously had never seen an elephant before, so they did not know what it looks like.
Yeah.
But between like, them not knowing what exotic animals look like, also that got in there is that just other things that were described in the same breath, and a lot of them were like monsters and such. And so people were always fascinated by like all the different creatures that they were able to put into these things. And I mean, I play enough using dice to kill monsters games to know that people love a good monster. I mean,
we love a good monster.
One of my childhood like things was that I loved drawing monsters of different kinds.
Oh yeah, owl bears. That's good. Dragons. Are dragons a cryptid?
They definitely, there are definitely people who try to find dragons. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Because here's the part where things are going to get complex, is that cryptozoology is a very wide field that spans from people who are like maybe like 1 degree off of being just naturalists, and then there are people who are like, I'm looking for Bigfoot. He is my friend. He is telepathicing and he can travel between dimensions.
He came to my door once asking to borrow some eggs.
Yeah, it goes everywhere from Bigfoot is real, or Bigfoot might be real. We need to go and search for evidence of whether or not he exists. To Bigfoot is real. He is psychic and can go between dimensions. Like those are the sort of the spectrum, the full spectrum of cryptozoology. To kind of give you like a little bit of like a beginner thing about it, cryptid.
Please.
The cryptozoology, crypto comes from the term from Greek meaning to hide or to be hidden. So a cryptid is like, it comes from the word crypto, which means hide or hidden. And cryptid is basically a hidden animal. This is the cryptocurrency thing, because crypto comes from cryptography, which is a way to conceal or hide text, like to encrypt things, Right.
Yeah, I get you.
The problem that cryptozoology people have always fallen into, though, is that if you want something to be officially recognized as an animal, you need something called a type specimen, which means you basically need a dead one of them to classify and tag and put in the museum and say, look, we have one. This is what this is.
It exists. Here it is. Or at least it exists dead. Here's a dead one.
Yeah. And so a lot of times cryptozoology is the study of these animals that have not yet had their things taken. And I think that it's also very like interesting to point out that they're always like mythical or like in some way like really big or really interesting or weird type things. Like there's no cryptozoologists who are searching for like a beetle that has a slightly different shell pattern compared to another beetle that we do know about. Right. Or like, at least as far as I know, there's no cryptozoology or there's no crypto botanists, trying to look for like mystical plants or anything like that.
Yeah, here's just like a regular plant with a slightly off color. This is like, it's always something a little bit weird and wonky. It feels like it's like combining different, which to be fair, like nature is a little weird and wonky sometimes.
Yep.
There are some like weird animals and weird plants and things like that. So I get it.
Yeah. And so like there's a few really big ones that everyone knows about. The big one, Bigfoot / Sasquatch, which has been associated with the wilderness and has been around, at least in some capacity, has been written about since 1958. Although some of the, discussions of Bigfoot have also taken terms from like Sasquatch, which has like origins in indigenous like myths about like big hairy wild men type stuff.
Sure.
There's the Loch Ness Monster, which was first written about in 565 AD, but got most famous because of a 1934 photograph. I'm sure everyone knows this exact photograph.
Oh, I know this photograph.
But the Loch Ness Monster to cryptozoologists is typically thought of to be some sort of sea serpent or a plesiosaur that somehow survived the many, many mass extinctions that it would need to survive in order to live in this one lake in Scotland. Which also reminds me that the other thing that'll go down is the coelacanth, which was this fish that was thought to be extinct for millions of years until they just, fished one up like about 100 years ago or so.
Yeah, I know that one.
Another big one would be the Nepalese Yeti, or the abominable snowman.
I was going to ask about the Yeti. Yeti, in my mind, is so tied to Bigfoot. Like they're very similar, but different places.
Yeah. The Yeti is more associated with like the mountains, specifically the Himalayas. So like there's like a really great Nepalese like dumpling / noodle place that I go to regularly, and their logo is a Yeti.
Nice.
And a more recent one would be the chupacabra, which is which has its origins in Puerto Rico in 1995. The first report of a chupacabra was done in Puerto Rico in 1995, but there are stories that go all the way back to the 1970s in the U.S. Chupacabra is literally Spanish for goat sucker, so
yes,
has a thing.
You know what's funny? As you're listing all of these, because my brain is like hardwired for like one thing, all I'm thinking about is, boy, they've done all of these cryptids in Scooby-Doo episodes before and just unmasked them to be people, which is very funny.
October is the month where the superhero dimmer switch gets turned off and it's just all Scoob.
It's all Scoob in here, up here in my noggin.
Like Scott is constantly like that meme of the astronaut who's like sweating looking over two buttons, and one is like, this is a comic book and this is a Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Or I'm that meme of like, that couple laying in bed and the girl's like, I bet he's thinking about other women, and in my head I'm like, all right, so this is all the cryptids that Scooby-Doo has unmasked before.
Yep. Never change, buddy. So like the other thing is like, could this like are some of these might be real, right? Like there's so many things to go with. So this episode I'm not going to try and like be like, oh, every single one, we're going to debunk every single cryptid. There's hundreds of the damn things. Every culture has tons of them, but like I'm going to try and go through like the bigger concept of it. But like there's like real attempts to try and figure out either like how supernatural or how scientific it is. Like Bigfoot has several attempts at giving it a scientific name, but none of them are actually recognized. The Yeti is oftentimes described as being maybe a primate, something like an orangutan.
Okay.
So there's like sometimes there are people who are around like, yeah, these are just real animals. Like maybe we're just looking for a big species of North American ape. That is just what it is.
Sure.
But and also it has done a lot of stuff about like trying to define cultures, communal spaces, trying to like there's a lot to talk about with cryptozoology and the people who are interested in it, in the line between civilization and wild areas, that like this is like in many ways like hanging on to cryptids is like a way of us to imagine a different age where our relationship with nature was one that was a bit more mysterious than it is today, where there wasn't so much that we knew about things, and that nature wasn't a thing that we were actively imposing ourselves on to the point of basically destroying it, but like is a thing that still has deep secrets and big things to uncover. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'll give you a few debunkings because it's probably not aliens, and I know that you guys love me spouting about things. So I'll give you a few. Bigfoot.
Give me some facts and logic. Destroy these cryptids.
Destroying their asses with facts and logic.
Yeah. Their crypto asses.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
So let's talk about Bigfoot first. The heavyweight champion of the cryptid world. The famous case that's still used as like the most pervasive evidence of Bigfoot existing is the famous film that was done by Roger Patterson. The thing is that Roger Patterson had a long history of a Bigfoot obsession and wanted to make money, and confessed on his deathbed that this video was a hoax.
Yeah, you've seen this video, everyone. You've seen it. It's the classic one of like Bigfoot swinging the big long arms, looking back. It's like a meme, like that, the pose of Bigfoot swinging his arms, looking back at the camera. You've seen it.
Yeah, and the other bits that usually come forward with Bigfoot sightings are things like footprints. That's why Bigfoot is usually a term that's used. They're like large footprints with hairs sometimes, but none of these have ever actually stood up to any scientific rigor. Sometimes to try and say like, oh, this is just like a fake footprint made by people of a person's footprint, they mention that there's a mid-tarsal break in footprint tracks or in Bigfoot tracks, but oftentimes that is also present in some people, so it's not really a big like
what
thing.
Does that mean, a mid-tarsal break?
So non-human primates can lift their heel independently of the rest of their foot, but humans can't primarily. So you think about like walking, like our foot is a lot less agile because it wasn't designed to grab things like a lot of apes have.
Oh, I see.
But a lot of people can. Like there are some people who can do that, so it's not like a universal thing.
Gotcha.
And like every single Bigfoot like hard evidence has turned out to either be a hoax or a misidentified animal of a different kind. So like very often a human or a bear or something in that variety. I'll talk about some like bigger things too, but like being native to North America, like there is a lot of open space, but like given like how long an ape would need to gestate and reproduce and the amount of like natural space and resources that would be available to it, if we haven't seen one by now, they would the population that would need to be around to support them would not be viable if they're this hidden.
I mean, we're forgetting the fact that Bigfoot can't teleport between dimensions and things
There's
like
that,
that.
yeah.
So
This is the
yeah.
part where, like, to try and explain why, no one has found a Sasquatch, they have, like, cryptozoologists have defaulted to, well, it's because he's psychic and can travel between dimensions. Duh.
Duh.
The other big one would be Loch Ness Monster.
Yes, please.
Because Loch Ness is a famous, like, deep lake. The famous 1934 Nessie photo that we probably all saw when we were kids was debunked as a hoax in 1994.
What?
And almost every, like, Loch Ness Monster sighting turned out to be hoaxes or misidentifications. And there's just the other aspect that, like, Loch Ness is not a huge lake. It's deep, but it's not very big. And probably would not have, like, the space for an entire species of, like, say, predatory reptile that would need a lot of fish and things to live.
Yeah, that's true. They used to do Discovery Channel when I was growing up. They used to do Discovery Channel investigations about all of these cryptids, and the Loch Ness Monster was the one I remember the most because they would get out on a boat and, like, scan the whole loch and try to, like, pick up things like they would, like, detect things like, oh, something in here is using echolocation. And I think that was even in the same documentary. They were just like, yeah, sometimes because it's not locked off. There are, like, rivers and other openings and things like that feed into it. I guess that, like, some animals that do use echolocation sometimes get into the loch, and they're like, yeah, it's interesting, but there's nothing that has really compelled me to believe that there is a big monster in there as much as I would like to believe it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A few other ones that I could also just, like, throw together. Because there's some lesser known ones that I could also talk about. I'll handle a few more. So, like, the Yeti, all of, like, the conclusive evidences of Yetis have had, there was DNA analysis done on one that really seems that very often a lot of these are just Himalayan black and brown bears and not, like, hairy men.
Interesting. Is the Yeti different from the abominable snowman?
No, that one is, like, they're the same thing.
They are the same thing? Okay.
Yeah. There are also, like, various hairy men of different folklores, not just the Yeti and the Sasquatch.
I know, I'm one of them. Yeah.
The Yowie is one that is reported to live in the outback in Australia.
Cool.
There's the Orang Pendek, which is, like, this it's in Indonesia on the island of Sumatra, and it's supposed to be this, like, another bipedal ape, maybe a descendant of one of our, part of our human family. Which, I mean, there's no evidence that these exist, although it is in the place where orangutans were found, and so some people are like, oh, it might be a relative of the orangutan. But, like, again, there's various things you can talk about with that, like the Orang Pendek. There's no evidence that they exist. There's no things that actually show that it's real. They would find us too sexy to avoid us because of the sexy ape theory. So
that's true too. I was gonna say, do you think is there a possibility that these sightings are just, like, actual, just, like, hairy people wandering around? Just, like, hairy humans just, like, walking through the woods? Is that a possibility?
I mean, it could be, but, like, in many ways, like, the Orang Pendek is very much, like, apparently tied to, like, Indonesian folklore. Like, apparently it's, like, some sort of demon by their reckoning.
I get you, but, like, if we take it back to North America and we just talk about, like, Bigfoot, is there a possibility that just a big hairy man had a wild bender one time, and wound up in the middle of the woods naked, but was very big and hairy, and some people were like, that's Bigfoot, I see him right there. And I'm not saying that's every sighting of Bigfoot, but I'm saying, could it be one sighting of Bigfoot?
That is the plot
history?
Of an episode of The Simpsons.
Is it really?
Yeah, like, it's one of the first episodes of The Simpsons where they go camping and they get lost, and somebody takes a picture of Homer and determines that it's Bigfoot, and they kidnap him.
There you go.
Feed him pork chops. I think that a lot of the Bigfoot stuff is based on, like, if I were to, like, hazard a guess, is that a lot of different cultures over our histories have always, like, civilization in, like, the settled society, there's always been, like, a development of a cryptid that seems to represent the wilder version, wild people, either people who live, like, in the bush or something like that. And I imagine that they probably sort of evolved out of that.
I see.
Yeah. Other ones would probably be, like, the Nunda, which is this, let me try to get this again. The Nunda is, like, this potential eater of people from this fairy tale in Swahili, such, like, the Swahili creature. But
is it big?
It's supposed to be like a big cat that eats people.
Is it purple?
It
Is it a
has,
giant purple people eater?
unfortunately, it doesn't have any horns, but and two eyes. But
Oh,
what people are seeing there is likely, from what some people suspected, is that it's what happens is that there was probably a crossbreeding between tigers or leopards, like a hybrid that created a subspecies.
huh.
What's possible is that when two different species interbreed, they can create, which happens, every so often, they can create offspring that have genetic issues. And one of the genetic issues can be like what happens with lions and tigers, is that growth
Sure.
hormone stuff gets thrown off and they end up being just like really big. So we might be seeing something that's like that, if it's real at all.
Big hybrid. Yeah, sure.
Other examples that have no evidence, but they're based in like, folklore and myth are like the Dobar Chew, which is this cryptid from Ireland that looks like a basically a giant otter.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. The other would be the Acurinus. They're supposed to be like a sort of a mysterious tribe that look like white people that live in the Amazon rainforest.
Oh, interesting. So that's not even like a one-off. That's a whole group, a whole tribe.
Mm-hmm. That one I need to do more into because that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
My white supremacy alarms are going off for that one. But that speaks a lot to about the fact that Brazil has like a massive amount of uncontacted tribes that they have to deal with, where they have entire like little societies that do not contact the outside world and still live as they did many like thousands of years ago.
Mhm.
And of course, the chupacabra, the many chupacabra sightings and remains almost always turn out to just be a coyote or a raccoon that has mange. Mange is like a parasite that makes animals have really itchy skin, and very often animals with mange have like a lot of their fur, like they either scratch off parts of their fur. In really bad cases, they might have none of their fur, and you can imagine that some animals like raccoons or coyotes would look really messed up with, if like not only did they have no fur, but like also their skin was all like scabby from scratching and stuff like that.
Look, here's the thing. This happens every couple of years. Someone will take a photo of a very normal animal that typically has fur, but doesn't have any in this photo, and people will freak out thinking that it's some sort of like cryptid or new monster. Like I feel like a classic one that like reappears every couple of years is like a hairless bear, and people will be like, "The fuck is this thing? What the fuck? This is a new creature." And it's like, no, you've just never seen a bear without hair before. And to be fair, like hardly anyone has, because that's so weird to see. But like my point is, any like mammal that typically has a nice fluffy coat of fur, when you take it off, they always look so wild and so alien and foreign that it doesn't surprise me that like a mangy raccoon looks like not a raccoon at all, but a completely new beast.
Yeah. So if you ever wonder why people say mangy, it's because like that's like mange is typically like a thing that a lot of animals get when they're like wild. So like a mangy dog is like a wild, like a
mangy
like sort of like semi-feral dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like, those are like just a few of them, but there's some bigger lessons to take away. But Scott, first, I need to turn you on to the glorious world of product and service.
Okay, let's go there.
All right, I'm going to play the sound now, and then we'll do some product and service. Hey folks, Tristan here, interrupting whatever the hell we're getting up to for something that's not only legit, but downright crucial. Ever find yourself sprucing up your CV only to watch a friend, equally skilled mind you, score the callback while you're left on red? Makes you wonder, right? Did the algorithm tag you as the office buzzkill? Or is it just your imagination running wild? Did your zip code or search history kill your chance at a career? Now, I'm not just your friendly neighborhood history nerd, I'm also a dad. And not the shares every adorable thing my kid does on Facebook kind of dad either. Why? Because I've had my fair share of threats due to the work I do. So, if you've ever thought twice about what you put online, whether it's a job application, an impromptu rant on Twitter, or a photo of your kid you don't want immortalized in the data mines of some tech behemoth, you're gonna want to stick around for what comes next. Cory Doctorow talks about a process called in-shitification. It's a slippery slope where a platform reels you in with shiny free goodies only to gradually pull a Jekyll and Hyde on you. Suddenly it's all spammy ads and invasive data mining. Yeah, we've all seen this process before. So you start with a simple sign up or a discount coupon, or hell, even a dating profile, right? And before you know it, the cool platform you once trusted starts to show its true colors. CEOs change, financial tides turn, and your personal data, well, it might just end up on the clearance shelf, and you never know when that will come back to haunt you. Like, say, when you're applying for that job. One minute you're laughing at cat memes, the next you're wondering why your healthcare premium just shot up because your fitness app data got sold to the highest bidder. And let's not even talk about the kinds of people lurking in the dark corners of the internet who'd love nothing more than to feast on your personal details to sell scam or even commit identity theft. All right, let's dial down the suspense and get to the nitty-gritty. I mentioned earlier about getting left unread by job recruiters, right? But it doesn't stop there. How many of you have gone online to book a vacation and wondered why the hell you're being charged the GDP of a small nation for a week away from the day-to-day? It's not just you. Folks booking holidays on US websites often shell out thousands more than their overseas counterparts when booking online. We're talking about everything: car rentals, hotel rooms, and especially flights. The difference can be as high as a whopping 68%. It doesn't even have the dignity of 1 extra percent, so I can say nice because it's the sex number. You're probably asking, how the heck does that work, Tristan? I just wanted some sun and sand, not an economics lesson, but listen up. It's called price discrimination, and it's as fun as stepping on a Lego barefoot. Basically, companies use your location, browsing history, and yes, even your device to tailor prices just for you. And not in the "your special" kind of way, more like the "we see you have a pulse and a wallet, so pay up" sort of deal. Instead of charging you what it's worth, many companies will try to squeeze you for whatever they think they can get away with. But hold on a sec, Tristan. Are you saying I'm doomed to be a digital nomad without a homeland, subjected to the whims of cold, calculating algorithms? Oh, I hear you. And the answer is an astounding no. Why? Because I've got something that'll turn you into the Gandalf of the internet shouting, "You shall not pass!" to all the nefarious entities out there. And that is NordVPN, your weapon of mass encryption. Look, here in the true north, we're cut off from some of the world's most buzzworthy shows. Yeah, you heard me. There's no Harley Quinn, no Handmaid's Tale, and forget Succession or Chernobyl. With NordVPN, you can smash those invisible borders. Picture this. You're sipping on a Tim Hortons Double-Double, the good kind, before Timmy started tasting like cigarette butt tea, kicking back with your favorite episode of the feel-good show of the year, The Handmaid's Tale. Sounds too good to be true? It's not, because NordVPN lets you tunnel through digital boundaries, turning you into a cosmopolitan connoisseur of global content. And let's be honest, in a world where corporations think they can puppeteer your online life, NordVPN is your Jiminy Cricket, your digital conscience guiding you to smarter, safer choices. If you've been following me long enough, you know that I have no patience for any institution that tries to pull the wool over our eyes, especially when the security of my family hangs in the balance. So what's the deal with NordVPN? It's like building a digital Fort Knox around your data. And before you hit me with the, "But Tristan, isn't this just for tech-savvy folks?" No, my friends. NordVPN is as user-friendly as a Canadian goose, minus the hissing and the poop. That was an awful metaphor. I apologize. Anyways, it's literally a one-click operation. And voila, you're armored up like Iron Man. So don't be a passive pawn in someone else's power play. Get NordVPN at nordvpn.com/probablyNotAliens and reclaim your online independence today. Trust me, it's the one subscription you won't regret. I've hyped this up enough. Go to nordvpn.com/probablyNotAliens and take NordVPN for a spin. If you sign up for a 2-year plan, you even get 4 extra months. And because I respect your money, a 30-day money-back guarantee, risk-free. That's nordvpn.com/problyNotAliens. Okay, let's get back to the show. So like there's various different cases. These are all over the world. And there are also like a subsect of people who are really dedicated to finding these things. The big problem is that like there's a few ways you can look at it. Like one, the allure of the unknown can sometimes blind us to the reality or the logic on the ground. Like sometimes the idea that the creature is really interesting or even very compelling evidence, like photographic evidence, might take us away from like bigger other issues and shows a gap in our like sort of reasoning on things. A lot of these cryptids, especially the more famous ones, don't have any concrete evidence, despite the fact that people have been looking for them for years. And they're usually fairly big creatures in well-known territories, which by most logic would make it like pretty hard to have missed after all this time. And there's a lot of evidence that belief in cryptids, like Bigfoot, can be a gateway to other conspiracy theories, because once you are like, well, why is there no evidence for this thing? Then, well, it's being suppressed, and then it kind of goes into
suppressed, and like, yeah, and then you've got all this other stuff, like, you know, I mean, we bring it up a lot before, but like, yeah, any conspiracy is like a gateway to another thing, where it's like suddenly you start having distrust in pretty much everything around you, to the point where everything's a conspiracy.
But also, like, there's this whole subset of things dealing with crypto tourism, where people of a region are starting to get tourists showing up wanting to see the cryptids that live in their region, overshadowing that they have their own cultural and natural heritage in that region. And I've been told too that that sometimes cryptozoology and cryptid hunters in their expeditions, because they're, you know, not trained field biologists, tend to do things that, say, people who are interested in conservation don't approve of, because they're like essentially going on a hunting trip in the woods in places that might be protected areas and leaving trash and all that kind of stuff.
I don't like that.
Yeah. But like, I think that it's important to understand like why people are doing this. And there is something to the fact that cryptids do recapture our sense of mysticism. And like,
sure,
we live in this world where, like, I feel like this is like a lot of times when there's a lot of like people talking about fringe science and like big physics stuff too. There's this idea that like we have advanced so much with science that a lot of the easy stuff to find, that is usually the big and dramatic stuff, has kind of already been found.
Yeah.
Now the people who find new species are going to extremely remote places in the world and finding species of like insect and plant and microbe and like these kinds of things. And it's very rare, if not, you know, completely not seen anymore, to see like larger creatures actually that we've never seen before showing up. And in some ways there's a little bit of like a sadness. Like I think that a lot of, I even see this in like people like David Childress with his like Indiana Jones shtick, where there's like this idea that we have mapped out a lot of the world at this point, and that there's not a lot of room for exploration in like the sort of traditional sense of like people going into the deep woods and finding new things. And that kind of, there's a little sadness in that, and people who want to recapture that might, you know, go into this, might get into topics like this, because it adds a little bit of mystery to the wild.
I think about this all the time, because I know nothing about like insects. So like if I'm just like outside, even just like a couple steps outside of my home, and there's like a bug that I've never seen before, the first thing that pops into my head is like, what if I'm the only person who's ever seen this? What if I just discovered a new little critter? And I'm like, no, I just don't know anything about insects, so this is just new to me, but someone already knows about this. And there is a little bit of like, kind of wish there was something new out there.
And sometimes there might be something hiding somewhere, but again, like there are a lot, like animals and like especially bigger things leave their like, they leave wakes, like they leave impacts on the environment. And we are we have reduced the amount of wild spaces on this earth to such small areas that anything of like the size of a Bigfoot would be pretty easy to spot by this point. For example, look at the giant squid. We spent a long time being like, we can never find one of the giant squids, and now we have several pieces of like video evidence because at the bottom of the ocean, because we have like in the last few, you know, years invaded every single possible wild space that exists.
Yeah, we got them. They can't hide from us.
If any of these like big cryptids existed, we never saw them, like more than likely they're extinct by now. There's also another part of motivation that I also like try to dance around a little bit, because this part is like getting into Tristan makes you sad territory. So maybe I'll hang on to it for that. But like I know one of the big cryptid hunters that I knew when I was younger was a person who was planning trips to South America because he was looking for dinosaurs, because he was a young Earth creationist who thought that dinosaurs would still be real, and so needed to go and find dinosaurs to prove that Bible.
Gotta go find dinosaurs. All the dinosaurs in the Bible.
And yeah, this like just shows like you should probably be dubious about these claims, because like the reason why science works the way it does is that it's a process that tries to be verifiable and replicable. And so like cryptozoologists go and do their thing, but like biologists also do their thing. They do field work all the time trying to classify and identify new species. And like it's boring. You find new species of beetle, you don't find new species of like, upright walking primate, but it's still
Beetles are cool.
yeah.
Beetles are rad.
Mhm.
They made a whole superhero movie about a beetle recently.
Yeah, I don't think it was good.
I heard it was good.
Okay, well,
I don't know. Neither of us have seen it, clearly.
that is true. That's
So
true. The other thing too is that there's something called the 50/500 rule, and this is the kind of thing I was talking to you about with Sasquatch and why like a lot of these animals species, like where the people say that there's like unexamined species, like an unseen species that is like this big that would need this much territory to survive and is still a viable species, sort of violates the 50/500 rule, which is that you basically need a minimum of 50 members of a species to fight inbreeding.
okay.
And you need a minimum of 500 individuals to reduce genetic drift, which means that like
Okay.
if there's less than 500 individuals in a species, there's going to be some issues. Like basically, one good example would be the cheetah. And for anyone who's like worked closely with cheetahs, knows that they have some genetic problems because sometime in the past they went through like a genetic bottleneck where only a handful of them survived, and because of that they have all sorts of genetic issues. It's also the same reason why basically every purebred dog is like, it's the reason why Scooby-Doo probably didn't make it to his 10th birthday, because Great Danes are like to breed a Great Dane you have to like do all sorts of stuff that leads to it not being
Hey,
able
look,
to survive very well.
If there's anything I know about Scooby-Doo, it's that he is a mangy mutt. And I think a mutt, by definition, is not purebred. So I have hope for him.
True. But yeah, like on the idea of like the 5,500 rule, basically, like if you have less than 500 members of your species, it's especially this is for terrestrial vertebrates, by the way. It will probably lead to some problems and might lead to like inbreeding and potentially like.
Well, yeah, but anything goes for interdimensional cryptid psychic.
There is that, yeah.
We don't know how many there are of those. There could be more of them than there are of us.
Yeah,
they're just in a different dimension.
This is why, like, I'm trying to remember. I think there was like maybe a Star Trek episode or something where they were talking about like, well, how do we repopulate this planet with like only a handful of people? And it's like, well, we have to do this like carefully calculated thing where we have all of your genes. Now, everybody is basically going to have children with everybody else. So like to keep genetic diversity up, basically like no two people can have more than one child. So like we're just gonna have to all be poly, basically.
Everyone have babies with everyone else. Biggest polycule.
Yeah, the complex polycule. So, what this all is to say is that like a lot of these animals have like a range that is far too small to actually host a viable population.
Yeah,
and means that like it's unlikely such a species exists, and also shows that there are ways to anticipate where certain types of species will live without actually having evidence of them. And a lot of these cryptids don't have that thing to give them that the viability that we see. Like if there were enough big feet to support an actual population of them, we would have seen them by now. We would see them all the time. You would have to wear a bell on your backpack when you're camping in the Pacific Northwest to avoid big feet, you know?
Yeah. I mean, in Nessie, right? In Loch Ness, if there were 50 to 500 of them, I don't know if they would fit.
Yeah. You would need over 500 of them. And also with the people who go more scientific, they would claim that Nessie is a form of plesiosaur. They would need to be like a thriving species of them that exists for millions and millions of years, which would we would have seen some by now, and there would have been remains and stuff.
Yeah, also true.
So then like there is that, but then like why do people go down this route? Why is there so much emotional investment in it? And I think that it has to do with the fact that cryptids have there's a couple ones, which is one that a lot of cryptids have some sort of connection to various different cultures and backgrounds. Like I do think that in many ways, I mean, there's like a resentment towards the scientific establishment that we have seen all over Ancient Aliens and all sorts of different forms of pseudoscience.
For sure.
I also wonder, this is maybe just me speculating a little bit, but I also wonder if our attachment to cryptids has something to do with us feeling guilty about what we've done to the environment. Like I think about the fact that like when I was a kid, there was like I think like 3 or 4 times more birds like on Earth like you heard birds more. And the fact that
Yeah.
we have eliminated so much wild space, that we have killed, like we have like eliminated so many species, or we have pushed so many, like reduced the amount of just sheer life on this planet to such a small amount, that a lot of our emotional attachment to cryptids comes from being a little sad about the fact that like
Yeah.
we've killed off most of the things that would be cryptids at that point, especially because it seemed that the first targets for extinction that we went for are basically every megafauna that lives in every region. I don't know if you, there's another part about how as humans live in an area, all of the animals get smaller because all of the bigger animals go extinct. The only place where any megafauna actually survived for a long period of time is Africa, because those are the megafauna that evolved alongside us, right? That's why like elephants in Africa still exist, although we're also like, you know, hunting them to the point of extinction. But like,
Yeah.
the North American elephant called the mammoth died because they were not able to handle humans. They did not evolve alongside humans to know how to deal with them.
Yeah. That's sad.
Yeah, this is the part where, well, we're not even at the part where Tristan makes you sad yet.
No, it's gonna get worse.
Yeah, there's also just like, you know, a lot of cryptozoology does not follow the scientific method, which means there's a lot of relying on anecdotes, rumors, and very sketchy sightings, notably like, you know, blurry videos and photographs, and a lot of selective use of data and ignoring contradictions. And it's widely popular. A Puerto Rican mayor literally put together an armed posse to go hunt for a chupacabra. A surprisingly high percentage of Americans still believe in the Sasquatch. And like there are some places like Champy and the Honey Island swamp monster that have like cultural festivals and tourism surrounded about it. And there was also at one point something called the Oklahoma octopus that was blamed for certain attacks, but there was no evidence around it.
Wow.
So there's all of that. But like, I think that also it's like really important to address this stuff, because belief in creatures like Bigfoot can lead to a broader acceptance of the supernatural and the paranormal, which like is like, you know, fine on the surface, but the danger is that it erodes our critical thinking skills and our basic understanding of science. And in a future, I'm not going to delve too much into current events, but if you look on the internet and in social media spaces in general, we need to kind of be moving to a space where we're being more rigorous and skeptical in accepting what is true or what is realistic or what makes sense in science, but as well as like various other things. And eroding your skepticism like that is going to like make you fall for more stupid shit. Like there's a reason why like there's a big crossover between like ancient aliens fans and like say conspiracy theory movements like QAnon, or like why the best indicator for somebody believing in a conspiracy theory is believing in a different conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And oftentimes these can be exploited for tourism, which, you know, sidelines genuine issues and cultural heritage in favor of, you know, let's go see Mothman, I guess.
Yeah.
Erosion of our scientific understanding, you know, reducing our standards of evidence for how we actually go and find these things because we follow too many TV shows about people hunting cryptids.
They're fun though.
They are fun.
They are goofy.
And sometimes too, it makes it so that actual researchers are hesitant to publish their data, because sometimes when they do like publish like evidence of things that they found on their expeditions, they will, this is sort of like what we talked about with the UAP phenomenon. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say, it feels like a very UAP sort of thing where like if you speak up and say that you found something that is like a UFO, people will be like, wow, that's sort of crockery. We can't take you serious right now.
But if say you said, oh, look, I was like working in Sumatra and I think I have some evidence that there might be an undiscovered species of primate that lives here. Maybe we should do an expedition and go find it. Instead, people will be like, it's the walking thing. It's like, you know, like then people will start showing up there to look for it. And it's like, oh, Jesus. Okay. Yeah. So that's the other part. And just like, so yeah, cryptozoology might be fun, might look like harmless fun, but if you look deeper, these myths have real world implications that we probably shouldn't ignore. So we should strive to be more informed and rational.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween.
I do want to. Happy Halloween. Be informed and rational this Halloween.
Yeah.
Trick or treat, more like science-based evidence, please.
Yeah. Do you have a Halloween costume?
Do I have a Halloween costume? Emily and I are trying to think of something.
Because you guys did gender swapped something last year.
I don't even remember what we
Did
did,
like
to be
Steve and
honest.
Blue's Clues or something like that?
Oh yeah, Emily was Steve and I was Blue from Blue's Clues. That's what we did. A year before that, we did Superman and Lois Lane. I don't know what we're gonna do this year. She's got some ideas. She tends to take the lead on these things, and I think it's fun. You have a costume?
Yes.
I know you do. You sent me
I'm
photos.
super proud of our family costume this year. So Kelly's still in the process of putting hers together, but we got a little Batman costume for our little toddler. I have purchased a luchador mask, and
Yes.
I have purchased this tube of glow sticks.
Yep.
And I have somewhere in the vastness of my random shit, I have some glow in the dark body paint, and I bought a black tank top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the tank top, draw some glow in the dark veins all over my like arms and stuff, and put on the luchador mask and try to find some way to take some of the green glow sticks out and have them come out of my back and into the mask somehow. And
yeah. I was gonna say, as soon as someone's like, "Oh man, how'd you get all that paint all over you?" Or just, why are you glowing? And you're just like, "I was born in the dark."
Yeah, and I'm realizing that like no one's gonna recognize it, because when I searched for Bane costumes, I almost entirely got Tom Hardy. And
you got the Tom Hardy one, yeah.
Bane, who's like juiced up on, what's the drug called?
It's called
Venom,
Venom.
right?
It's called Venom, another Tom Hardy production. Venom.
But like they lost the plot on Bane, and so a lot of people don't know that Bane is like some like South American guy who's gotten juiced up on like super steroids or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's what we're doing. But yeah, also
That's awesome.
You don't like really need to super hardcore check your candy. That's just an urban legend.
Just an urban legend.
There's only ever been one case of it happening in all of history, and it was somebody who did it to their own kid. So yeah, don't.
Candy is a cryptid.
Candy is a cryptid. Yeah, but that's cryptozoology, a brief overview. I obviously could go into detail on all these other things, and if this episode does well, people like it, it could be a way for us to expand our oeuvre so that ancient aliens doesn't dominate our lives.
You know what I want to dedicate a whole episode to, and people they're gonna have to tell us if they want this.
Fresno Nightcrawler.
Do what?
Fresno Nightcrawler.
It is the Fresno Nightcrawler. That is what I was going to say. I was like, last time we had Mildred on, they were talking specifically about the Fresno Nightcrawler, and I looked it up, and it is just the goofiest, funnest looking cryptid we gotta talk about. So,
and someone has to get their third appearance on this show.
Why not? But anyway, happy Halloween!
Yeah. And if you want to wish us a happy Halloween after enjoying this episode, you can do so by going to @PropsNotAliens on Twitter or Bluesky. On the note of Bluesky, we've been doing this for the last couple episodes, free to a good home. If you want to say hello, but you don't have an account yet, you can put in a little code, BSKY-social-4MJWQ-6EVTG.
First come, first serve.
First come, first serve. Other things that people can check out is... Oh, I didn't do the thing.
Oh, I'll do it for you. Hey, Tristan, where can people find more of you online if they want to hear more of your beautiful voice?
Oh boy, I feel like you got a lot of that in this last thing. But if you want to, you can go to Step Back on YouTube or Nebula and watch my stuff. I talk about why history is important for understanding the past, or the past is important for understanding the today and the world that we live in. Because again, don't want to get into current stuff, but man, it'd be really great if people had a better understanding of their own history.
You and I are so good. I feel like we are so good at like making beginnings and endings of a podcast that do sound frantic a little bit.
Which is like absolutely insane.
The beginning and the past is good for understanding today, and we're so good at it.
Yeah, my latest video, by the time that you are getting this, will still be my video on media and how media manipulates you. Again, very apropos to our current situation. My next video, which should be coming out like this Friday as of the release of this to the wider internet, is going to be probably right up everyone's alley, because it's going to be me talking about the JFK assassination, which should be super fun.
Yeah.
Scott, if I wanted to learn about the greatest sidekick ever in comic books, Topo the Octopus, Chris, where would I need to go?
Hell yeah. I will tell you right after I stop Sparta from knocking over some stuff really quickly. Just give me 2 seconds.
I'm keeping that.
He wants attention so bad right now. Yeah, Topo the Octopus. A great cryptid, I would say, if you want to learn about a comic book character who's an animal that plays drums and does other stuff. And is a kraken a cryptid? Or is that just a myth? This is so late in the episode to ask for the difference between a cryptid and just like a mythological creature. I'm not even going to bother.
I feel like a cryptid is a mythological creature that somebody took seriously enough to think that is real.
There you go.
There's probably someone who believes in a kraken.
I have a YouTube channel called Nerdsync, Nerdsync, where I look at comics and superheroes and cartoons. I'm doing a lot of Scooby-Doo stuff because I love Scooby-Doo and it's spooky month. Ooh. I have a million things I want to get done. My camera broke, so I'm doing a lot of voiceover this month, and I would really appreciate the support because I'm sort of losing it. So go check it out. Links in the description.
And if you want to help this show out financially, the best place you can do is sign up for Nebula at nebula.tv/probably-not-aliens. We get a little kickback from you joining up, and you get episodes a week early. And now I can say that confidently. We are on cycle.
Yes, mostly because of Tristan and not me, but we're doing it.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone who reviews the podcast on Apple Podcasts and sends us feedback on Spotify. It's all really great, and I love reading those and all that good stuff. And
the best way to help the show out is to do reviews or tell your friends. Just because this show spreads through word of mouth. So please, if you think there's someone who would like to have this podcast in their life, first of all, I'm sorry, but to send them send them to probsnotaliens.com, which is our splash page where you can pretty much find all of the podcast apps of current day and choose the one that you use to sign up. And of course, don't forget the meetup on November 4th.
Don't forget the meetup.
2833 North Sheffield Avenue in 5 p.m. Chicago.
That's right. Go check it out. That's everything, I believe. Until next time. My name is Scott Nicewander.
I'm Tristan Johnson, and the truth is out there. Probably. There's this guy on Twitter who on like September 8th said that he was like on a boat to the South Pole because he was going to break through the ice wall because he believed in the flat earth, and has not posted since then. And I am convinced that he is now a cryptid.
Oh, well done. The hunt starts now.